became good friends over time. Seeking retribution, we are faithful to the end. We're gonna cross that line.
Hello and welcome to the Wests Tigers Faithless podcast. As you can hear by my tone of voice, it is a very somber Tuesday evening. I'm Jared Reedie, a former Wests Tigers faithful member, and with me is Mr. Joseph McCord, aka Mac Dougal. Mac, how are you this evening?
Well, I've been better. Let's put it that way. It's been a few days now, so I've managed to engage that magical part of my brain that represses my traumatic memories. So it's I'm already looking forward to this weekend's big win.
I love your faith. Isn't it amazing that 40 minutes and the ball may not have been in play for 26 minutes has shaped the way we have felt for these past few days? I need to ask you something. Is this rock bottom?
Well, I mean, probably, but like it's only the same rock bottom that we've already been at for the last 2 years, isn't it? Really, like it's we're kind of back to where we were this time last year. Like it's just that the minor appearance of a couple of wins might give you some false confidence that we're not still at rock bottom, but unfortunately, I guess we still are.
Yeah, we keep finding new innovative ways to find further levels, which is disappointing. We'll review the game very sparingly, rather shortly. I don't want to, for all the listeners out there, unless you're a Dragons fan, I don't really want to make it even more traumatic. But the first place I want to start is basically what is doing the rounds on a 24-hour news cycle, is that the anointed one, or the formerly anointed one, Lachlan Galvin, allegedly wants out of Wests Tigers. I have my opinions around this, and I think there's a little bit of player-manager innuendo doing the rounds, but I'll grab your take first, mate. How are you seeing this scenario?
I'm like really disappointed. I know, you asked me a couple of weeks ago about how I felt when we had that sudden departure of Papa Lee, and I was like, whatever. This is different. Like, this is really disappointing because, like I've sort of followed Lachlan for the last couple of years and thought he was going to be awesome, and to see him emerge so early on and be really good early on, it was like, oh man, it's just like when you discover a new band nobody's heard of and they blow up, that sort of feeling. And
Yeah.
To have this sort of play out the way it has is really, really disappointing. In fact, I don't want to make any kind of like assumptions about things that I don't know that much about, but reading between the lines, and given who his manager hopefully was soon, I think that this is history repeating itself, isn't it? Like, it's the same dude who was behind the same issues last time. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he not the manager of all of the big four?
He was. Yep, that's exactly what happened.
And I think, sorry, Jared. I think on top of that, like I don't know whether there's truth to these rumors about Lachlan saying in the dressing rooms after the game that he wanted out. It seems absurd, doesn't it? Like, an 18-year-old kid who has been handed everything, handed the keys to the kingdom, and is basically being treated like royalty. acting that way. Like, if that's true, if like that's actually true, then it kind of actually offsets my disappointment slightly, because it reveals something about his character that I really didn't pick. And I'm not going to say for sure it is true, because it does seem absurd. But if it is true, I don't know how somebody like Appy Coruscant or somebody like John Bateman can be in that dressing room with him and not, like, pull him aside and be like, "What are you? Pull your head in, mate. You're a young kid, been handed the keys to the kingdom. You go through hard times. That's part of the game." Like, and if they didn't, what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if the players sort of just sat around and let him do that and didn't actually like pull rank on him, like, what's going on? I want to know, if there is truth to it, what the reactions were like in the dressing room. That's what I want to know.
Well, David Riccio said on NRL 360 tonight that there were some negative reactions and that they're actually a little bit annoyed that Shane Richardson is digging his heels in if this is a bloke that doesn't want to be there. There is nothing confirmed, by the way, Mac, listeners, etc., that Galvin actually said this. Isaac Moses has form in doing this before. He's done it at Wests Tigers. He's done it at other clubs. I know his disdain for Wests Tigers. He, for the most part, with the exception of when Tim Sheens and Warren McDonald came back to the club, he has had a lot of animosity towards us, which I think stems back to his cousin, Mitchell, when he was turfed by Ivan Cleary. Ultimately, he has history with this club. He does not see a strong enough system here. And look, you may argue he's right, but the manner in which he goes about it is unethical and, quite frankly, pretty downright disgusting. But to give people an idea, and I've said this a couple of times in certain circles, Jake Simkin was released last week, who was an Isaac Moses client, and that freed up space in our cap to make sure, I think, that money isn't going anywhere else on possible upgrades for the likes of Fanua Bole or Samuela Fainu or Stefano Utoikamanu, whether or not you think that he deserves that cash or not. I think Isaac has blown this up and told his mates in the media, your buzzers of the world, your David Riccios of the world, to blow this to blow it right out of the water. And to ensure the upgrade and extension that Richardson has spoken about since the early rounds of this season for Lachlan Galvin is tied up. Now, I could be completely wrong, Mac. I may have egg on my face. There's rumours doing the rounds that obviously Penrith want him and the Chooks want him and you name it. Now, look, beyond the fact that that's anti-tampering, if this kid seriously wants to go to those clubs, we're going to have a tough time keeping him. Could this get to a look? I think that this is a lot of smoke and mirrors, but could we get to a point where we have a Gordon Tallis type situations on our hands where he had to sit out for a year or two? I know it's different because he hasn't signed for a different league, but could we get to that stage? I don't think that Richo is wavering in what he plans to do.
Yeah, I don't think that we'll get to that stage with Lachlan. I just don't think that the NRL is kind of that kind of place anymore. Like, I think that the Players Association have probably got a little bit too much influence over the game, and there'd be too much, like, what the reason that we ended up letting Moses go was because it started to be a whole duty of care thing, mental health thing, and because of that, I just think that at the end of the day, if he digs his heels in, like, they're going to be able to break the club. That's just how it is. Unfortunately, I think, Richo will play hardball a hell of a lot harder than our previous administration would have. We've seen in the past that they basically were just like, "Oh, you want out? Okay, bye-bye." Like, don't give a crap.
That's right.
But I don't think, but I think Richo will dig his heels in for a while, but I don't see, a whole year or anything like that panning out. I do agree with you. There's these, leaks that have come out on social media, burner accounts on Twitter that are apparently
They're unreal, aren't they?
Yeah, apparently there's some, for those who don't know, there's some leaks on Twitter that are apparently Moses's burner account, the agent's burner account, like, just hanging shit on the club, and really kind of, if that's true, like, if he's making burners to, like, drunk post on Twitter after Tigers games about how shit we are, then that motherfucker's axe that he has to grind is very sharp. And like, in my opinion, while ever he, while ever he's got a player at our club, that player's days are numbered at our club, in my opinion. And I think that, it kind of makes sense that Simpkin left. And it kind of makes sense that there was that kind of chatter in the background for the last, year or so online. Simpkin's dad having a crack at the club.
Barnesy.
Yeah, constantly having a crack at the club. Like, doesn't that sound just like the sort of like he's probably being freaking gaslit by Moses, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, seriously, he probably has. Like, and so is probably Galvin's parents. Like they probably, like you said, like when Warren Mack and Sheens were around, it was probably like, oh, maybe they'll get him back on the straight and narrow. That those boys know. Oh, they've turfed him too. This club's a joke, and back to fucking wanting everybody out of the club.
Yeah, that's right. That's the crux of it. Look, again, Isaac Moses has an axe to grind, but I find it interesting Shane Richardson's wording, both in articles and in this interview that he did with Michael Chammas.
I loved it.
Wonderful, yes, and we'll get to it soon, but he effectively says that he wants to speak with Galvin's parents.
Yeah.
As opposed to Isaac. By all reports, he had a pretty robust conversation with Isaac on Friday after the release was formally submitted on Thursday. But I think Richo is trying to cut out the middleman a little bit, and that will be interesting to see whether or not Lachlan's parents can listen to reason. I've got no understanding of who they are and so forth. They live close to me. They've grown up in the same area as me, but ultimately, I don't know them. It's not fair to sort of assassinate their characters either. We're just going to have to sit and wait around and see what plays out.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Like some of the tone of Lachlan's, I can't believe we're talking about this, like his most recent Instagram post since all this came out. Like the fact that he's actually posting Instagram content while this is happening is kind of like he's kind of obvious. He's taking a piss a bit. Like it's like, mate, there's some serious stuff going down in your career, and you're like making joke posts on Instagram, like resharing Zach Lomax's post that he put up, giving you a bath, and you resharing it, like making a light of it. Like that to me is weird, but I guess what I'm getting at is like, it seems to me like that they're all pretty on board this whole idea of getting him out of the club, I reckon, which is such a shame because, he was saying all the right things and we've given him such a good chance. And even his dad was like, we're going to repay the faith. The Tigers took a shot at him when everybody else said he was too small and this and that. Man, I don't like if that's how it plays out, like I'm just like next time I hear stories like that coming out of like the mouths of young players or parents, it's just gonna be like there's no loyalty in the game anymore. And to an extent, how can you blame them? Like, how can you really like blame Lachlan for wanting to go to a club that he thinks is a better club, and not show loyalty to this club when this club's like shopping around players they signed in the off season because they've had a couple bad games? Like it cuts both ways, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Look, as you say, that might be one way it goes. This also may be a ploy to try and get some more money out of the Tigers immediately. As I mentioned, Jake Simpkins is gone. Asu Kapoa looks to be headed for the exits as well.
He's gone. It's official. Yeah, Kapoa is signed with Penrith. So, I just on that Richo interview, is that what you wanted to talk about next?
Yeah, man, let's go there. Let's go to Richo. Oh, just quickly before we do, look, let's just see how this Lachlan Galvin stuff plays out. I think it's too early to start assassinating anybody's character except Isaac Moses's.
Yeah, I agree.
We're a long way away from this saga ending, but we do have a man in the big chair that will not suffer fools and will not take this shit. So you can bet your bottom dollar that at the end of the day, if Galvin still wants out within a few months, Shane isn't going to let him go anywhere. But let's get to that interview. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, if Shane really feels threatened, he'll just bring out the big guns, mate. You know, he'll just be like, you know what, you leave me no choice. I'm rolling John Sutton out, and he's going to run it straight at you. Um,
He loves John Sutton.
he loves John Sutton, mate. Like John Sutton's in his first year as an assistant coach over at South. They're doing great. So maybe we'll see him in the head coaching position in the not too distant future at the Tigers. Anyway, yeah, that interview, mate. Oh, I mean, I got a little like I liked it. Like I said, I liked it. I thought it was entertaining, and I like that he's coy. He doesn't seem bothered. Hey, like that's the thing that
No,
gets to me. I kind of get the feeling that he actually thinks like I kind of feel like he's resigned to losing both Galvin and Stefano. Like it feels like he's like getting to that point where he's like, oh well, but the fact that he's like, oh well, instead of actually like bitter and like butthurt about it, like maybe a Lee would have been. Lee had Japan tell us. He seems like he's kind of enthusiastic about it. Like
look.
he's almost like that comment about the 2 million. Go on.
Oh, no. Look, Shane, I think Shane Richardson has seen everything in this game before. He knows how to deal with player managers. He doesn't have recruitment managers. He is effectively judge, jury, and executioner on that recruitment committee, and he will never sign a player or release a player that Marshall doesn't give him the green light to do so. So, with that in mind, he's been around the bush a little while, and everything that's going on with Isaac is not an issue. I love the fact that he says, without his voice wavering or faltering, that if Stefano does choose to leave, he will have $2 million to spend, and he will be a quote unquote very dangerous man in the marketplace. Now, I know right now things are tough. And yes, we are probably at rock bottom. But when you've got a man like Shane Richardson here, who the only thing he knows is how to rebuild clubs into successful juggernauts, that riles you up a bit, eh?
Yeah, Richo. Look, I mean, the dangerous comment was very tongue in cheek. Like he was like the only
But
thing
down him
that
at your own risk, Mac.
the only thing that like is that should feel danger when Richo's around is the buffet table, mate. Like, but like I
His
do think.
toes should feel pretty worried as well. He snipped one off in
Mm,
the off season.
yeah, I reckon he might have a little bit of the old circulation trouble. But no, the reality to me is I think that he really genuinely is like, I've got Jerome, and look at Jerome, he's carving it. Jerome's killing it as the halfback at Penrith right now, and he's probably like they're talking about Jerome being the halfback for New South Wales in game two, and he was very good in game one until the wheels fell off. Um, so rightly so that he would feel confident that Jerome's going to come in and make a difference. And I think that like we've had a lot of discussions in the last couple of weeks on our prized secret Discord server about what sort of roster construction our team should have in order to compete well, and like where the true value lies, and is it really important for us to give the likes of Stefano 800k? And I think the comments that Richo made about Adam Fanua-Blake when we opted out of signing him kind of like reveal how he views it. I think Richo is the sort of person who would look at Stefano and go, yeah, we'll pay him 800k. We need a prop, but we're getting Jerome. And if Stefano is not going to be there, Jerome's the rising tide that lifts all boats. And, he probably thinks like Jerome will walk in there with Taruva and, we'll see better performances out of the cattle that we do have. And he's probably right.
Yeah, as you say, rising tide lifts all ships, and iron sharpens iron, and all the other rugby league-esque cliches. I think that Jerome will be a part of fixing it. It's just how long it takes for Marshall and Richardson to rebuild this roster. I think there are green shoots, and I think they're going to. It will undergo further reconstruction. Obviously, he's trying to sell some players in England. He's trying to buy some players from England. For those who didn't see, there was a Wide World of Sports article that said that we are currently in advanced talks with an unnamed forward. Who that is, we are not entirely sure. But the point is that he is very, very active in trying to fix it. And I don't think that the bloodletting is done. Obviously, there's some players that he's spoken about, but I also think what we've discussed in regards to, terminating contracts early of development players that are being elevated, I think that's still coming. So, and look, it's hard because, again, it's been 13 years and we've been asked to be patient through so many rebuilds and so many football managers and so many coaches and so many playing groups. And I get it. Absolutely, I get it. I feel it right now. I'm so frustrated. I was saying they ruined my adolescence. They ruined my young adulthood, and they are well on their way to ruining my 20s. But again, we have never had somebody in the building like Shane Richardson that just has a knack for rebuilding clubs. So with that, stay relaxed. Don't take yourselves too seriously, West Tigers fans.
Yeah.
In this time of darkness, this is the West Tigers Faithful podcast, not the West Tigers Faithless. Sorry for everybody who thought I would say that at the start. As you can hear, my demeanor has changed.
Yeah, I'm a very positive man. I will
You turn the
bring it all
tide,
back.
my friend. But look, there is a long, long way to go. There is open heart surgery to be done on this roster, and we
Yes.
haven't even put the patient to sleep.
I don't mean to like argue, but like that to me is at the heart of why this club's continued to fail. Because there's like not been somebody like Richo who demands success quickly. Like you can see not the Redcliffe Dolphins. The Dolphins come in and in one off season built a better roster than we have.
Yep.
And they perform better than we have with was their roster better, or did they just play better because they had a better like coach? Who knows? But like they built a more competitive outfit in one off season. Other clubs can have wooden spoons and hit the top 8 the very next year. And to me, like that's what Richo's doing. Richo's doing the mercy dash to the England, and like he's like, can't get anybody good here. Over to England I go. I'll find my new Sam Burgess. He's like looking at the players that we have and going, you're going to be like not required. So blah, 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 all 5 of you. And it's going to make this year very hard. Very going to be rolling out either, 17 players who, are arguably barely up to New South Wales Cup, some of them, or we're going to be rolling out players that know that they're not going to be there next year. Like we're still going to be rolling for the next few weeks at least with players like Brent Naden, who is very likely not going to be at the club next year. Charlie Staines, very likely not going to be at the club next year. John Bateman, talk about him not being at the club. Clemmer, and the list goes on. You can't really win games with players who have really nothing to play for at all, especially when the majority of the team fits that description. So
yeah, you're absolutely right.
This year's going to suck. It's going to suck. We might jag a win this weekend, though, because we're up against a pretty miserable team and we're also at Leichhardt. So, there is a chance. There's a chance.
That's right. Well, before we preview that game, let's just quickly do a review. I don't want to talk about the first half of the Tigers game on Friday night because any of the good work that they did came undone in the second half. But you have a highlighted note here, so I'll let you speak.
Yeah, I mean, the first half was good watching. Like they unraveled because Sullivan got sin binned, right? That was it. It was like Sullivan got sin binned, and they went, blah, this is happening all over again. And this time they didn't have the resilience to pretend to care. They just fell apart. But yeah, I wanted to make mention that I thought that like the fact that in the pregame, Benji literally said, Alex Lobb in the side, we're going to target him with kicks. Boom,
Yep.
One kick up, Alex Lobb catches it, comes down, scores a try. We've got a try scoring option there now. It's demonstrably worked the first time, and they did it how many other times in the game? 0.
Yes.
But they didn't really get that many chances to either, did they? So, but anyway, I thought that was great. It was a great moment for a young dude on essentially what was his debut on his home pitch too. So, and I believe it was another local Wollongong boy that put the kick up. So that was a pretty nice moment, I thought.
Yeah, nice moment. And then we conceded 44 points in the second half. Look, the Wests Tigers at the moment, they operate a little bit like the butterfly effect. So the way I see it
That's so true.
is that because we don't have quality and depth, when we are exposed, if we are off by just a fraction, the world changes like nothing you've ever fucking seen. And we saw that on Friday night. Now, look, you can talk about some defensive efforts of Stefano, Sione Fainu, Ruben Porter. Don't care. Point is that if they are off by just a fraction, given once again the lack of quality at the moment that we currently have available to us, it just results in results like this. That's where I'm at, and that's going to sum it up. And it's going to be like that for at least the rest of this season, and it could be longer depending on what Richardson and Marshall managed to do in the player market. That's it. Have you got anything more to add?
Yeah, I mean, I do. Like, I think that there's a difference between what we saw on that fateful Friday night and every other loss this year. That was different. And I think
Yeah.
it's worth pointing out. I don't feel like that we had quit in us in any of the other games. I feel like that we had like panic and ill discipline. And yes, those things, panic, ill discipline, like lack of attention to detail, individual players trying too hard and playing outside the structure, all of those things what happens when you have a roster that's young, inexperienced, lacks quality, hasn't got like time together on the field. What we saw on Friday was different. What we saw on Friday was the result of a team that has turmoil. And that turmoil is coming from many locations. And that turmoil is going to be probably just as hard to solve as general quality. What the short term, what we need to see from the short term is the turmoil that we saw on Friday go away, and at least getting back to seeing that effort, at least getting them back to seeing. We need to figure out what the reason was that Stefano Utoikamanu only took 4 carries for 38 minutes and solve that right now. And we need to figure out like why we got steamrolled up the middle by like, you know, players who would probably not be playing first grade if they weren't wearing the red V. Like,
Yeah.
that stuff is effort. That's you could roll out. I've seen teams with way less quality, West Tigers teams with less quality perform better than that. I've seen West Tigers teams with less quality win against top 8 sides.
Yeah.
So to me, I think while I 100% agree with you, we're very unlikely to like compete and win, you know, our share of games every year until we really fix the roster and until we really develop a lot of these young guys and bring in other players to fix them. Though, like I said before, it can happen fast, and it should happen fast. If you have somebody in charge who knows what they're doing, it should actually happen fast. But yeah, the turmoil that's causing results like that needs to stop now, or we could be seeing some pretty bad results. I don't want to see another Cowboys 70-point thrashing type result.
Yeah,
You
man.
know,
No one does, man. Not
I
even
hope that
not even the
Dragons result
neutral
was the
ones, though.
worst one. Like if that's the worst game of the season, that's the line in the sand that I would be drawing if I was Benji Marshall and the coaching staff. It's like, all right, you got it out of your systems. That was your give up game. That was when it was all too hard. But moving forward, it changes now. And if you don't get a result from if your coaching staff can't get a result when they draw that line in the sand, then if you're in charge of the coaching development, like a Matt Beatsy, or if you're the CEO, you need to start asking questions about the coach, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, I don't want to get into a conversation about Benji tonight. There's enough commentary about it, and quite frankly, I think we'd be going over old ground. What I will say is this: is that Benji Marshall will be given until at least the end of 2025, if not early 2026. Like it or not, love him or loathe him, think he's out of his depth or not, you're stuck with him. So I'm not going to give any time on that. I'd rather sit here and speculate on other things that are real and present and could change this club in the short term, such as the departures of Galvin and Uitoya Kamanu, the other movement in the playing roster and trying to sell off some other players. So That's where I'm at. I mentioned the right edge last week. Lob, Stain, Sullivan, Seafarth. It went exactly pretty much as we planned. Marshall has made some personnel changes. Whether or not that manages to change our fortunes defensively remains to be seen. But ultimately, it comes down to the fact that the roster isn't good enough. We have too much youth that does not have enough experience mixed in, and Richo, I'm sure, is trying to fix it. Before we preview this next game, Mac, do you want to touch on anything else?
Yeah, not really, man. Like, I think that, we summed it up last week. That right edge was on a hiding to nothing against somebody who is in the form that Sully is in, and that had performed as well against us as Sully did in the previous game. So I think Sully giving us a bath wasn't really a surprise to me. But yeah, like I said before, I think that the issues to me were really more pronounced through the middle. Like when the Dragons got on a roll in the second half, we weren't getting in front of their forwards and trying to tackle them. And to me, yeah, that's sort of less of a quality issue, more of an effort issue.
Yep, completely agree, brother. Completely agree. All right, well, look, let's preview this game. Sunday, 3:00 at Leichhardt Oval. Look, all three grades are playing from flag through cup through first grade. I know the club's doing it tough right now, but if you want to get a glimpse of every single player pretty much that we talk about every single week, then it might be worth going. Leichhardt Oval, it's a wonderful ground. It's a wonderful experience, and it is the 14th man on the field out there, and it doesn't matter what kind of form we're in or who we're playing. We always show up at the eighth wonder. So whoever you are, wherever you are,
Lately.
yes, it was actually a graveyard for us in the years that we were actually kind of successful, but ultimately. If you're around, get down. Unfortunately, I won't be there. I'll be in Paris, but more on that later.
Oh, sad. How sad for you.
Oh, yes. Shocking. Shocking, mate. All right. Look, Brent Aiden's back at right centre. Charlie Staines has gone from right centre to left wing. Justin Olam keeps his spot after a shaky game, but ultimately, who else can you call upon? Alex Lobb keeps his spot on the side. For those who don't know, Jareen Buller is wearing jersey 21 because they're retiring jersey 1 this week in memory of Keith Barnes. Uppy Coruscant, jersey 7. Aiden Caesar, jersey 6. Vanua Bolle is playing left edge back row as far as I can see, which is rather interesting. Alex Seafarth also reverts to the bench. And Talon De Silva will make his first NRL appearance of the year at dummy half in the wake of Appy playing halfback and Jake Simpkin heading elsewhere. Look, just quickly on the Titans, Hasler is in the middle of changing the DNA of that club. They had a really, really off week last week, and teams that are on the rebuild are going to have those weeks. I worry that their intensity will be too much for us. I've seen what they've done in the past few weeks, probably the last 4 or 5. This is a side that will hurt us if we're not careful, much similar to the Dragons. But in saying that, the Leichhardt factor and the fact that we've just come off a 50-point pasting makes me think that we will hang in there for 80, although I don't hold any confidence in a result. Where are you at?
Yeah, I think, man, like, I don't want to say that I feel stupid, but I think we're going to win this game. It feels so dumb to say. It feels so dumb to say, like, but I feel we're going to win this game. The dead cat bounce is a thing. Leichhardt's a thing. We've got Caesar back. We've got Appy in the halves. So in the halves, we've got some quality. We're going to have a new look 9 who honestly has actually been playing really well in the last 2 games he had in the New South Wales Cup with big minutes. So
yeah,
he's a talent, and this is the first time he'll be wearing the 9 when he's back in our NRL team. So, and he's the future. So this is really exciting. He's, a local hero. He's not a Leichhardt kid, but and the Titans, I think you undersold how bad they were Like they got flogged by the Rabbitohs, who were coming last before last weekend. Like they were worse than bad. Like they were as bad as we were, man.
Granted, but they also ran into Latrell Mitchell with a point of proof. Don't get me wrong, they weren't at the races.
We ran into Zach Lomax and Moses Sully. Zach Lomax coming off a New South Wales game that was like completely out of the box. Like I think our fans don't realize because they don't pay attention. The Titans are pretty much as bad as we are this year.
Oh, that's a big call, mate. We started ahead of them, but I think
Look at the ladder.
they've worked. Yeah, I get it. But I'm just looking at form lines, and yes, they had a poor week last week, but so did we, and ours was far more diabolical. They've shown more in these last 6 weeks than we have. That's the way I'm seeing it. Look, again, we just came off a pasting. You expect them to bounce back because for the most part this season, they've shown plenty of effort and they are playing for their coach again for the most part. But it's gonna be a dogfight, I think, if we come to the party. Appy at 7. Look, it worked last year for a win against Redcliffe. I think it makes sense. We just need him with his hands on the ball. I'm excited to see Talon through the middle third as well. So that gives us a bit of threat. Aiden Caesar at 6. I'm not necessarily expecting Gold Coast Titans, Aiden Caesar, but you know, he does have a little bag of tricks and he'll be interesting. And I think he'll want to come back and prove to the boys that, you know, he really wants to be there and that, you know, he feels as if he let them down. So that helps us as well. There's some, and he obviously injects a lot of experience into the side. So this spine, it intrigues me. Obviously, Coruscant at 7 is rather interesting, and he's not yet obviously your quintessential halfback, but you know, it wouldn't surprise me if you see us post a few more points simply because Appy's just got his hands on the ball more in better positions. How do you see our attack playing out?
I think I think probably good for maybe 4 tries in this game.
Yeah.
I think our attack will be. I don't know. Like, I feel like this game is going to be it's going to really come down to the Titans. Like, and that's where my confidence comes from. I think what I look at is the fact that the Titans spine is Keanu Kinney, who is in his first year, Jaden Campbell at 6, who has played very little 6, Kieran Foran, who is, you know, granted an experienced and, you know, decent half, and Chris Randall at hooker. Like their spine is it better than ours? Really? I don't think so. Like Appy Coruscant is a better player than any of the 4 players there. Aiden Caesar is probably about as productive of a player right now as Kieran Foran.
Yeah.
Maybe a little worse. Jareem Buller, maybe not having the best year ever, but I think that he's proven more at an NRL level than Keanu Kinney has. And you know, Talon De Silva is obviously the unknown factor in our spine, but Chris Randall's no superstar. So I look through the Titans roster and I'm looking for their match winner, and I'm looking at like what Fafita, like, because that's what usually happens to us in these sort of games against other teams that are bad, is like they'll have like that one guy who, like, it might be a Bryce Cartwright, right? Like that kind of one guy who can just rip a game apart just by having a freak game. But like I think Fafita's lining up against Samuel Afinu. Do they play? Are they matching up against each other?
Let me check for you, bud.
Because I feel like if that's the case, Samuel Afinu matches up very well with Fafita. Like Samuela will actually go toe to toe with him, and Fafita doesn't like it when people do that. Like if Fafita's matching up with Bolle, maybe Fafita will get his. And I think that may prove the difference. Like it seems weird to kind of fixate on something so narrow in the game, but
it's what happened with Bradman Best in that Knights game, isn't it? So I completely agree with you. Look, from what I can see, Sam Weller has been named in jersey 12, and going off what Marshall has done in recent past, that to me makes me think he's playing right edge this week, which should pit him against Fafita, and then Bolle and Fermor on the other side, which
it's a bit more of a fair matchup, yeah.
Yeah, but that also gives me the heebie-jeebies. Both Fermor can play.
So can Bolle. You did mention Bolle, so I will just talk about him in the back row for a minute. I think
Go for
like you look at Bolle in the back row and you go, "What? What's Benji thinking?" But Bolle has played a lot of his time in the back row in the NRL, even when he wasn't necessarily named there. Like the way the rotation worked a lot last year when he was playing 13 was that he would come back on in the second half in his second stint and play in the back row. And he would always play on the left back row. He scored a lot of tries at left back row. Like not a lot. A lot's an exaggeration. He scored a few tries. I distinctly remember him scoring one try
against the Dogs.
I think in one of the only games we won last year, I think he scored a try where there was like a wraparound and he was the recipient of the wraparound. And so like I don't think he's going to do a bad job at left back row. Bo Firm was a good player though. Like I'm underestimating him. He's probably one of their best players. So he will have to be on his game. That's for sure.
He absolutely will have to. Apart from that, Justin Matamua again had a couple of occasional lapses through the middle, but I think he is really turning into a decent player. I'm really, really excited to see him continue his development, albeit in a really poor side this year. I think Jerome Luai is going to be amazing for him next year, but to see him get the time that he deserves and the time that he needs in first grade is something that I'm really, really happy watching. What are you seeing with Jazz?
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? I think he obviously went off injured in the last game, and it disrupted what was sort of what was coming together to look like a really like breakout game. Like he was really impressive in that first half, yeah, like he obviously doesn't play lock like what we're used to seeing from our locks.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't play lock like Cleese Haas will play lock. So he will add a very different look and feel. And the way he plays lock, other teams are not really prepared for. You can tell that since he's come into the side, the way he digs in and his shapes have so much variance to them. Like he can go right out the back, or he can go flat. Like he nearly freaking get like swallow another try. Like that's
he's
that's
a wonderful
no
point of difference, isn't he?
That's no mean feat. Yeah, 100%. And the Titans are a very fragile team, so they're going to have to be really wary of Justin Matamua, and they may not be because he is not exactly a superstar of the game. So I would be and your point about Luai is so true. But I also look at them and go, imagine Luai off the back of him, because Luai plays so well in space. Like Luai is best when he gets cramped up and then bounces out of a tackle and comes back the other way. Well, Matamua is going to give him ball where he's not going to have to do that. He'll be in space to begin with. So that is a very exciting combination for next year.
It most certainly is, brother. Pathways watch, mate. I'm going to throw you a curveball because the New South Wales under-19 squad has been announced. And I think Andrew Ryan hates us. Or maybe it's a directive for Madge, because there is not one Wests Tigers player in that side. Obviously, Galvin and Latu are injured, and Talon's playing grade this week, but there is no Heath Mason, no Kid or Luke Laulii, no Jordan Miller, and no Navran Willett. What on earth?
Yeah, I'm just have a quick look at the side. Like Chevy Stewart's playing fullback. I can't argue with that. I can't pick Heath Mason over Chevy Stewart. You got the McLean's winger as center. Yeah, look, I mean, I think we would have seen Talon in this team if he wasn't playing NRL this week. I think he would have 100% been in this team. I think that you would have maybe seen Latu Fainu if he wasn't injured. I think Lachlan, if he wasn't injured or playing NRL, would have probably been in this team. So that's three that, and beyond that, you could consider some of our other guys unlucky. Where's Jordan Miller?
Well, he's the big one. Obviously, Loco Pacifica Tonga for St. George.
He's great.
He's a wonderful footballer. But Fanafu Seve, as far as I'm aware, has only scraped into jersey flag at the moment for Canterbury.
Yeah,
I think that Jordan would be amazing in comparison. Halangahu, again, for St. George, great player, but he's a back rower.
Hayden Lyles.
Caden Lars, obviously development player playing Q Cup right now. I get that, but yeah, I'd be pretty filthy if I were Jordan.
Jordan Miller's the one that, he's the one I don't get. I can only assume, and Jordan Miller has played in all these teams before, so it's not like he's not played rep. Like
Is it possible, mate, that the club pulled him out given how dire our situation is in the middle forwards?
Yeah, I think you have to assume so. Like, there's not really any other explanation. Like, I feel like he would, like, I know you mentioned Loco isn't good, but Miller's further ahead in his development than Tonga is. Miller would be the first pick prop in this team, I think. So yeah, it is weird. I don't know. I can't speak to it, but I mean, one player. There's no conspiracy theory. It's just one player. So, like,
That's right.
I guarantee you. Like Heath Mason, you could argue maybe he should be on the bench or even in the extended reserves, but he did only come back from injury last week, so maybe that's what is working against him. I don't really think Nav Willitson radars.
Yeah, neither with Will Craig. Now that I look at I look at the side that they've got, the McLean brothers at 2 and 3, Hayden Buchanan at 4, Jabrail at 5. Yeah, I think that's hard to crack. Look, Luke Laulii will be in there without a shadow of a doubt next year if he's not playing first grade. But other than that, now that I look at it and we've sort of unpacked it, with the exception of Jordan, unless again the club said no, you can sort of understand it. Look, Steep's made his debut. I know that Kit's made his debut as well, but Blake Steep has been wonderful for the Chooks in New South Wales Cup, and Kit has been between 3 grades all year and not one.
You're going to win
First grade.
Who do you reckon's going to win this?
There's some bloody good players in both sides, man. I love the 19s Origin. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful spectacle. It's always high octane. The attack's always really, really strong. Mate, I'm gonna say New South Wales simply because at this age, the pathways New South Wales is always typically better. I know a lot of these players a lot more, and I watch a lot more of their games. That said, though, Purdue made his debut last week for the Cowboys and played really, really well. Kobe Black has massive, massive raps coming out of Brisbane at the moment. De La Salva, I've watched in person. He's a very, very good footballer. Your mate Matua Brown's in jersey 14. We know he can play. And Izzy Liotta, jersey 2, who is on development of the Broncos. He's actually the fastest player over 40 meters throughout the entire Brisbane club. He's as powerful as anything. So, look, it's not that Queensland don't have quality. It's just, again, I just look at that. I look at that bullocking forward pack that New South Wales possess. Like, Steep is a man mountain at 13. You got Pacifica Tonga as well, and Halangahu coming off the bench. I just think that plus Mitchell Woods steering this side around at 7 is probably enough to see New South Wales through. Plus Chevy at the back. I think he had a really tough game last year, but I think he'll take the piss this year, given what he has done in New South Wales Cup. I know he's had a shaky start to his career in first grade, but my word, he is a talent, that boy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of these guys play. This is like the same bunch of kids from the schoolboys carnival that was at Redcliffe last year. And the New South Wales teams dominated. I think that the smart money would suggest New South Wales are going to win this. Their back 7 is probably to a man better than the Queensland back 7. Maybe with the probably.
I'm interested to see how Jess McLean goes, given his size up against a bloke like, I think it's Tyrese Tate, who's a big human being as is Liotta.
But a lot of these Queensland kids are they're underrated. Like this. This has a feel of a Queensland doing a Queensland. To me, they look like I know that these Queensland boys love to play for their state, and what we discussed last week about Queensland spirit and how they feel about playing for their state versus clubs. I don't know. I'd probably honestly back Queensland.
Yeah. All right then. Well, we're pitted against each other, mate.
Mhm.
Let's run through Cup. Very, very narrow loss going down in the final minutes to Canberra after being up by a fair amount. Look, I've seen the highlights. Obviously that doesn't tell the entire story, and I've got some statistics. From what I can see, I'm really, really excited with where Jordan's going. I think Luke Laulii is improving by the week on the wing. As you said, I think his injury was sort of hurting him a little bit. He looks really strong out of yardage at the moment. I believe it was 13 carries for 120 metres. He's still got some work to do defensively, but I think he's getting a fair amount of time training with the first grade side on the Sting. I think as long as he continues to work under John Morris, he's only going to continue to improve. And I think he's a Galvin-esque bolter, but I don't see him seeking a release mid-season when things go wrong. What did you take out of the Cup game?
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't televised, so I've only really got stats and highlights to go by too. Um, on the subject of Luke Laulili, before I go on, he is named on our extended bench in NRL this week, which is incredible considering he's 17. So I'd love to get some clarification on what's going on there. Is he actually just on the extended bench to give him some looks, or is he actually eligible to play?
I believe he turns 18 in August, mate. So I don't think
Yeah.
they'll go down the exemption road. I think this is for Luke for these next few weeks and months. Training with the first grade side, doing captain's run here and there, possibly 18th man, and training on game day to get ready for that.
I
You may
don't.
see them apply for an exemption as a result because obviously he may be activated. But I think this is preparing Luke for what is to come.
He's
Because
jumping 19. Like,
yeah, but there is absolutely first grade in his future, my friend. There is absolutely first grade in his future, and I believe it will come this year,
yeah.
given what is going on, and these outside backs. Timio Hansen had another wonderful game.
Yeah, I was going to mention
Yeah,
that.
do you want to talk on that?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with him. I love his demeanor on the field. He gets through the stats. He's the stats man of the pack. He obviously has versatility. Like he's played prop, he's played bench, he's played lock, which is good. But he carries himself like a leader on the field. I don't know if you saw the sort of like deep dive into like what makes an NRL forward pack function that I did in the Discord, but like to me, like Tim Johansson actually shapes as the type of forward that we don't have at the club very many of,
Yep.
which is that low impulsivity, solid as a rock, but still tough guy. We've got a lot of tough guys that love to throw hands. And we've got one of those other archetypes who is currently threatening to leave the club, named Stefano. So it's yeah, it's. I'm actually excited by him. I'm surprised he's not on the extended bench this week. I thought that like he's put enough games together now to be starting to be viewed that way. But yeah, obviously, like I think we need to mention that the team that they lost to, even though they got run down, was the team coming first in the league. Canberra are no joke in that grade, and we got off to a flyer, and there was that Luke Laulili absolutely folded a dude, and it like led to an error that led to Solomone Fatape's try, where he like ran away from the Canberra winger. Yeah, no, it was promising. Obviously, the capitulation in the second half was very did it remind you of another team a little bit, maybe? But
Maybe a little. What about yourself?
yeah, a little bit. But we were all sitting in the Discord just watching the live updates on our nswrl.com. How lame are we just sitting in bloody Discord on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon? But just anyway, I digress. But I do want to point out we were brutally robbed because two of Canberra's tries were absolute bullshit. One of them was a ridiculously blatant obstruction, and the second to last try was the most forward pass I've ever seen in my life. But like this New South Wales Cup, the standard of officiating, you think the standard of officiating is bad in NRL? Don't watch a New South Wales Cup game. You will be driven to the bottle very quickly. But I also, I think I think that the New South Wales Cup team, now that we're starting to see a few guys coming back into it, like Heath and maybe hopefully when Adam Dewey's back this week, which is fucking awesome. And Adam
Shout
Dewey,
out Adam Bluchy. Welcome back.
welcome back,
Legend.
just in time, brother. Just in time. It would have been good to have you back a couple of weeks ago, but love his talk in the media today. Like, it was what did he said something to the effect of like, when I go back in the NRL side, like, if those boys aren't like playing to the standard that I and the other leaders expect, then for all I give a shit, they can play reserve grade for the rest of the year. I love
Always
that.
forgotten, Adam. You're not soft. I love you again.
Yeah, I mean, he was out of form, and he's had an injury riddled last couple of years, but the last time the Tigers were competitive, he was our best player. So
Yep.
I'm willing to give him a chance here to see if he can do some business.
Yes, as am I. Look, the biggest thing for Cup this week is ensuring that those boys take confidence out of what I think would be about 50 to 60 minutes of last week's game, and they make sure that they win this week and they see it through. I think with Adam at 7, that they have a really, really steady hand and somebody that's going to kick well and get them around the park and be a point of difference at 7.
I just hope he doesn't get hurt, man.
Well, that's right. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Look, irrespective of how you feel about Adam Dewey as a West Tigers player, the last thing anyone wants to see is that poor bastard get injured again. There's a talented footballer there. There's just some things to work through, and that starts this week, we hope. Look, from what I can see just quickly at the team list, Tony Suka, who had a really, really good game last week, has, judging from stats, 10 runs for 109 metres, and it looks about 13 tackles with 2 missed in the middle. He has now moved to the back row. Tim Johansson will start in jersey 8, and Kit Lauliti comes back into jersey 13. But what I want to shine some light on is Herman Tofeono. I think that Aaron Payne must be listening to this podcast, mate, is in jersey 18. And Navin Willett, who also got a huge rap last week, is in jersey 19. Look, this is one of the first years I've seen in a long time where this club is actually rewarding players in lower grades coming up. Some players are going down, and it is good to watch. Again, we're not getting wins too often, but for the most part, you're seeing, guys like Zach Clark come up. Obviously, Lachlan Broadlow came up. Unfortunately, it looks like he's out of the squad this week, I'm assuming, with an injury. But, guys like Kane Nicholas, Bailey Hodges as well, they're rewarding people, and that will help. And I think that in Herman and Navrin, when they get their opportunity in this cup side, Navrin might struggle a little bit given our depth. Sort of from cup through flag, he might struggle to keep his spot in the side, especially if players drop back from first grade ALA Sulfur Tape. But both of them have futures, and I think they'll take like ducks to water in reserve grade. Have you got anything more to add?
Not really, man. You think you summed it up well. I mean, I guess the only thing I might disagree with is I just don't see Nav going backwards. Like, he's progressive. I think without injury, like, he would be pretty close to NRL. Like, he's a one of one, as we discussed last week, and he's had, I think he only had, was it 2 or 3 games back from flag after he's like completely injury disrupted first.
Yeah, correct.
Season.
3 games.
And straight into, like, he's already, like, he scored a try every time, maybe doubled every time. Like, he's just scoring tries for fun in that grade. So I don't see New South Wales Cup as being a even remote issue for him. Dewey's going to be really good in this grade if he's anything like what he used to be. I think like somebody like Felladay's going to love playing with Adam Dewey. Felady, he's suffering playing with the halves that he's had to put up with in this team this year so far. He's a better player than he's had a chance to show. And Dewey does love to throw that ball to the center. That is his thing. Like he has that
He loves that
beautiful.
long ball. If he's not going himself, old Adam and Benji would have told him to
Yeah,
bring
it
that out
comes.
of the garage this week.
Yeah, I'm honestly pumped for Adam. Like I've not honestly ever been the biggest Adam Dewey fan, but like ever since I heard that he just decided that he didn't want player manager representing him anymore, he's my biggest hero. Like,
Given what's going on with Lachlan, hopefully Adam can represent Lachlan.
yeah, maybe Adam Dewey should become a player manager who's also a player.
From one tall, gangly West Tigers six to another, allow me to take care of your contract negotiations.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
get out of the way. Look, I know that Lebo. He's not the right type of Lebo. I'm the right type of Lebo.
hey, just quickly, shout out Zach Clark.
Try time.
Had a really, really tough debut, week one against South. He scored a try last week, looked really, really good defensively and seems to be aiming up and I think he's probably firming for a solid future, amongst the West Tigers.
There is one
Lord.
lament I have here that I wanted to just throw in. I noticed, and it's continuing to be a thing, and I'm gonna bang on about it every week, just on the off chance that somebody at the club is actually listening to this. Please stop putting hookers on the field to replace props.
Oh, yes.
Please stop doing it. Like in that second half, around the 55th minute or something like that, off the field goes Jordan Miller. On the field goes James Valavatu. And we got pumped in the second half. And it happens every damn week. And guess what we have on the bench this week? We've got two hookers, a back rower, and another back rower. Two flag back rowers and two hookers are currently on the bench. So I don't know what's going on here. I'm very glad that they've got Herman on the extended. I hope he plays, because if he doesn't play, that bench is terrifying to me to look at. Bailey Hodges, Brandon Tumeth, Sione Vaihu, Kane Nicholas.
That sounds like Cameron Serrato's named that bench. No,
My
look,
God.
two back rowers there, two hooker slash 13s. I think Herman has to come into this side.
He has to, doesn't he? And I mean, they've got Tony Sakar in the back row. He'll probably rotate off the field for like a Vaihu and then come back on in the middle rotation, but that's nowhere near enough.
Oh, even then, bro, yeah, it's still too light. Flag again went down narrowly to first place Canberra in the under 21s. Valiant effort. Shout out Nav who got on the score sheet. This side has been rotated again for what I believe is a clash with the New Zealand Warriors. Each week I don't necessarily expect much, but each week I am surprised. So I hope it's much of the same. Have you got anything to say on Flag, mate, before we say our goodbyes?
No, man, not really. Only thing, I mean, we've obviously got our favourites on this cast. Will Craig's out this week. I don't know why. John Ibrahim, your favourite, he's out.
He is a friend of mine. I'm going to go and see the other John Ibrahim, I think, in Europe in the next couple of weeks.
Very cool.
Yeah, no.
For those who don't follow Flag this week, we're playing against the Warriors, who are sort of bottomish, like 11th out of 14 in this grade. We've got 3 more wins than them. But, you know, it's weird. It's probably on paper, it looks to be one of our weaker named sides of the year. So it might be a difficult one, but hopefully they can surprise as usual and get the job done. It would be very nice to see. 3 grades at Leichhardt. I mean, there's three winnable games.
I hope so, mate. I hope so. Look, listen, I'm just going to say something quickly to all the listeners. I am ducking off to Europe with my wonderful partner, Bianca, for the next 5 weeks. You're going to be left in Mac's very capable hands. Whatever he decides to do with this podcast is entirely up to him.
I'm going to get Rob Bashara as a guest.
I won't be coming back if that's happening. Look, we've had an incredible first month. We've had so much great feedback, so many amazing listeners, and so many people that are going to be involved in this, I hope, for forever. We've got massive plans. We are going to turn it into a video podcast. We want to be a presence on social media. We want to do pre-game meetups. We want to do post-game piss-ups and benders.
Live game fucking chit chats where like you see me have like existential meltdowns because the Tigers are getting pumped by the Titans.
That's right, which is going to happen just this week. But look, guys, again, immensely appreciative. I'll be back in 5-6 weeks. I'll be honest with you, I am very excited not to even think about Wests Tigers for those 5 or 6 weeks. But in saying that, as I said earlier, I know it's tough at the moment. Don't take yourselves too seriously out there and check in on your other diehard Wests Tigers mates, because chances are they're doing it pretty tough. There's a lot of people that hang their hats on how this team goes of a weekend. Look, right now we're just copping it from all sides, but one day that tide will turn, and you can bet your bottom dollar Shane Richardson will be at the bottom of it. Mac, mate, it is 11:15 on Tuesday night. I think it's time to go, mate. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it as always. And if you've got anything else to say, I'll let you say it and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, my closing remarks, very important. Tune in next week. If we've won, I will play 1 hour nonstop of just, amazing 80s music. You can expect some Rick Astley on repeat over and over again. With a loss, it'll be just 1 hour of farts. That's my intention for next week's pod. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'll be back next week regardless of the result, and I will miss you, Reedie, but I'll try to hold the fort down.
I'll miss you too, mate. We'll be in touch, but a little bit more sparingly than usual. But with that, Wests Tigers Faithful Podcast, episode 4, we are over and out. See you later.
Ciao.